In 1980, English soul funk band Light of the World released their second album, Round Trip, on Ensign, and from it, the ballad I'm So Happy. Okay, perfect approximation of the American quiet storm sounds of the late 70s. We have those kind of like tight yet smooth bass lines that kick off like the first bar, followed by that kind of flowery, moment like open that follows and back and forth. Okay, a D minor tonality, just beautiful, like a bit of like open notes thrown in there, and those just flowering strings, and kind of dark yet sort of luminous. I'm getting kind of sort of like a mid '70s feel in those strings. Yeah, not an arrangement you hear on many English recordings from the time.
Wanna walk till my head reach the sky. Wanna walk with my head held up high. Can't you see everything that I do has got to be right?
Okay, vocals by Paul Tubbs Williams, who also plays bass on this. A lot of people listed in the credits, and I do believe I believe part of the there are a few American hands on this. Yeah, more on that in a bit.
That I've grown and I've taken my time. I will write of the things in my mind. People out there should know how I feel. It's got to be real, real. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. I am. I'm so happy. Yeah. I'm so happy. I am. I'm so happy.
Okay, beautiful harmonies. I'm getting kind of vocally. This is reminding me some of like heatwave ballads from the time period. Yeah. Let's see. Another track, interestingly, features Wayne Henderson. Yes, D. Wayne Henderson on trombone. I for a minute there, I thought I saw the name David Hungate, and then I guess I was just hallucinating. Drums are played by one Everton McCullough. I'm wondering if there's any relation between him and Noel McCullough, the vocalist of Moon, and who sang on Small Creeps there.
I'm so happy. I am. I'm so happy.
Oh, I love those. Those harmonies that emphasize the major seventh notes, like right there, like that, just that.
Just as I have begun to feel proud, people out there they feel I'm too loud.
I love the interaction between the bass, particularly those sustained notes on the bass, or like a moment ago when it went doo like that, and how it interacts with like pizzicato strings, like we just heard right there, or those Fender keys that we heard a moment ago.
Would they rather me tell them a lie? 'Cause if so, I die, I die.
love the way that those strings are coming in slowly and just sort of acting as kind of like waves of light over the kind of like darker bass.
You honestly tell me that I have wasted my time. I'm so happy. I'm so happy I am. I'm so happy. I'm so happy I am.
Yeah, I just love the production technique where certain sounds are meant to sound kind of like light or are meant to sound kind of like rays of light amid other sounds which are like mic'd or mixed to sound kind of shadowy. Like the bass is kind of like in the shade. Some of those pizzicato strings that were used a moment ago were kind of like that too, and it creates this impression of like say like a dark or room with just like soft lighting on certain subjects.
You must believe me. I'm so happy I am. I'm so happy. Hey, hey,
Beautiful harp. Oh, those fade out notes where you hear like little touches of like Fender and like glow and yeah, amid those like final flare ups of the strings and such. Yeah, arranged on that track by Augie Johnson, whose other credits of the period include oh yeah, this person is oh yeah, this is an American arranger who, going back to the mid 70s, had worked with Kenny Rankin, Nancy Wilson, Bill Withers, Stanley Turrentine. A couple of tracks on Silk Degrees. Pleasure's second album, Accept No Substitutes, Candy Stanton's Young Hearts Rent Free. Okay, this explains some of that mid 70s type of string arrangement, the kind of flowery, kind of like luminous, kind of luminosity in the dark, as I call it. Yeah, kind of like when sort of like a bright, deep, rich color kind of like shines on a subject in like a dark setting. A very mid, just like a lot of mid '70s camera work and such, like band footage, performance footage from that era. It yeah, it reflects a whole aesthetic. It's not like later on when just everything was just bright. They're being selective about what they highlight and what they use as kind of support. Yeah, Ronnie Law's Fever. The Black Smoke album from 1976. Dee Dee Bridgewater's second album. Her first her first soul funk album, soul pop album from 1976. Yeah, following her jazz vocal debut. Yeah, the Maxi album from 1977. At least one title by Side Effect. Yes, yeah, this guy had his hands all over the U.S. soul funk scene of the mid to late 1970s. This might have been Hiroshima's first album. Interesting. Off the Wall. Wow, this guy really has the credits. Strange how there are so many names on a lot of these recordings from this time period that you can be so far into all this and yet finally a certain name was highlighted and brought more to my attention. You know, a few Japanese like city pop titles, Mystic Merlin. Yeah. Anyway, could go on. Oh, he worked on David Essex, Bebop the Future, his 1981 album. That's the only other English album I see in his credits. Yeah. Anyway, let's hear Light of the World formed sometime in the late 70s, and they took their name from the Kool and the Gang album from 1974. Curiously, that has one of my favorite songs by Kool and the Gang, Fruit Man, yeah. Anyway, let's hear another track from this album, Round Trip. Something for Nothing. I love that little ARP sound right there amid the like funky kind of tight backdrop.
You're standing till midnight for the someone at your door. Your father said he warned you, but you won't listen no more.
I love how this band is a little bit like, 2 years backdated for 1980, but it's wonderful anyway. Yeah.
The time is just not passing by, and you wonder what to do. Your friends are outside waiting for you. Everything depends on you.
Okay, this too is mostly in D minor. Seems to be a key center that works for this band and their playing and range and such. We've got that kind of a that ringy guitar tone that's just like sliding up amid that funky bass line, and then that every few bars that after every like revolution of the riff, that ARP just kind of peeks out over the edge and.
Tell you something, it's for nothing. Tell you something, it's for nothing.
Okay, amid all the tight funkiness we got going, there is like the most closed cadence feel and such. There's a very faint like Fender tone in the background that's just going like low, low. That's adding like just a slight fullness and kind of airiness to the backdrop. That's making it all the more compelling.
Tell you something, it's for nothing. Tell you something.
Okay, I love the way we got the horns just kind of wiggling about there. Yeah, that actually could have lasted a little bit longer, but I think it's going to kind of interact with our main guy here.
Your father's taking hold of you, but your friends don't want to know.
just blow the roof off that thing. The ARP is played by Peter Stepper Hines. Yeah, it's Yamaha CS80 ARP Odyssey.
It's for nothing. It's something. It's for nothing. It's something.
Okay, that solo right there was played by either Chuck the German Brook or David Baptist. Yeah, both are credited on that instrument. Hear that brassy interaction. Yeah, I'm gonna assume that it's David Baptist that was giving us the sax solo because he's part of the band. The other guy, Chuck the German Brook, is an American associate of Wayne Henderson, who's credited on one track. And yeah, a few people kind of on the Wayne Henderson grapevine were involved in this. And so I guess you could say it has kind of like a mid-Atlantic flavor overall. Because English soul funk was very studied in like the American sound. It would oftentimes be just a tad bit more melodic, owing to the English like melodic tradition, you know, extending back to music hall, filtered through the Beatles, and there were about like half a dozen bands that could be classified in this area at any given time. I mean, around like the turn of the '80s, there was this band. Just under their second album, there was Hot Chocolate. There was the Real Thing from Manchester, and there was like the Brit funk sound that was like exploding around that time. Just like the act that I covered on here just recently, Freeze, and such. And it's an area of English music from around the time that isn't really discussed in like Anglophile circles. I guess because it's just not really thought of as like an American as like an English sound. Yeah, a few years earlier there was the JALN band who put out a few albums, 3 albums between 1976 and 1978. Yeah, from Birmingham. Yeah. Yeah, some of the stuff is so rarely talked about that I've been just like piecing it together from different sources, like the act I just mentioned, JAL, and I only learned about them a couple of years ago when I was watching reruns of Top of the Pops on YouTube. Yeah. Anyway. Light of the World, they put out 3 albums between 1979 and 1981. And they also had an offshoot, Beggar and Company, yeah. And have, since various iterations of the act have been active in more recent years, yeah. For more rubies and sapphires from the catalog of Light of the World, see the directory of albums by English L artists linked in the description below. Like and subscribe, follow me on social media, share the video, and leave a comment if there are any observations you have about the two tracks we just heard. The Quiet Storm, I'm So Happy, and the more funky, up-tempo, Something for Nothing. Yeah, the layers, the instruments used, the soloing, the interaction, the nuances of various call and response type elements. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear traveled Tram Maximalist, signing off.